Welcome to Love and Trauma, the real deal. I'm Danielle Sebastian, best-selling author, coach, and yes, I've been through the marriage trenches myself. This show is all about how to actually deal with trauma in relationships and make it work without losing your mind. If you're ready for honest talk, no fluff, and tools that cut through the noise, tune in because let's face it, love can be a bit of a mess, but it's a mess worth figuring out. This is Love and Trauma, the real deal.
A little different. I sat down with three incredible men who opened up in ways that will change how you think about healing relationships and even yourself. Because here's the truth, we don't hear men talk about this enough, about the pain they've carried, the way it's shaped them, and what it really looks like to break those old patterns. But Chris, John, and Matt, they showed up with honesty, vulnerability, and wisdom, and their stories left me floored. You're going to hear today my favorite components of each one of my interviews. So you'll hear from Chris Sanders first. He's a tech innovator and devoted dad who nearly lost himself in a toxic first marriage before choosing the hard, brave path of healing and became the kind of partner who could love and be loved again. And then there's John Mollura, a former NASA rocket scientist who seemed to have it all until his success started cracking. And he realized his perfectionism, procrastination, and reactivity weren't flaws at all, but signs of unhealed trauma. And finally, Matt Gerlach, a transformational coach whose panic attacks and burnout nearly broke him until he uncovered the childhood trauma underneath and rebuilt his life from the inside out. Each of these conversations left me with chills, tears, and so much hope. And today, I'm sharing those favorite moments, the ones you can't miss. Because if you've ever wondered what healing looks like for men, or what's really possible for your own relationship when both partners do the work, you're in the right place. Let's dive in. Let's go back. Who was Chris before you met Amy? What did life look for you before then?
Before I met Amy, I was probably a little bit of a hot mess. I had a lot of work that I had to do on myself to get to a place where I was actually ready to meet Amy. It was not an easy process or fast either. It took me years to get to a place where I was really ready to be in a committed, healthy relationship, and a lot of pain, a lot of soul searching, a lot of work on myself to kind of get to where I was finally ready, and it was super interesting. Once I did get to that place, just how quickly like life kind of fell into place.
And Amy wrote about in her chapter and in her interview that she also had some past traumas that she also was working on as well. So, and some of her trauma was from childhood and also from a first marriage. Can you speak to what some of the trauma was that you were dealing with at the time?
Um, yeah, I don't think mine was as much from childhood trauma and growing up. Like I grew up in a fairly, I would say, healthy environment. It was mostly from my first marriage. So having to basically rediscover myself, who I was. I really had gotten to a place where there wasn't much Chris left. Um, I was uh, completely exhausted from giving 110% as a provider and as a husband and as a father, and there wasn't much, if any, time spent on myself to be healthy. And the relationship itself was, as I look back, was very toxic to me, and it took me almost 5 years to get to a place where I felt like I was Chris again.
How did you know it was time to walk away? And not just for survival, but for your own healing and growth.
Um, it was something that I would say for probably the last, it sounds like such a long time, but the last 4 years of my marriage, I was just completely exhausted, and felt like I had given everything I could with little to nothing in return. And for me, the final kind of straw that broke the camel's back, so to speak, I from the time that we had our first kid until I guess I had my heart broken. We had actually never gone overnight, like out of town together. So there was just never any time for me and her to connect and have a relationship that way. And it was something that, I understand about myself now is like something I need. I need the connection. Like, and we all need that connection. And I was not getting that. But obviously longing for that in my life. And so I we had a trip planned where we were going down to visit my parents, and my siblings and stuff are down there. And I thought, this is like a perfect opportunity for us to at least have kind of a weekend or even just a night that we can get away and spend time together. And I knew every argument that would be used against leaving, and it would be the kids scheduling and money and like who was going to be where and when and all of the things. And so I spent weeks planning kind of a getaway where every kid was, I had a plan and I had money and I had already had the conversations with siblings and my parents of who was watching the kids when. I mean, all of those things were thoroughly analyzed and planned for. The money set aside. I had a reservation at a bed and breakfast. Had couples massage planned, and I even wrote like this poem that I had all printed up and ready so that when she woke up on Saturday morning, it's like the first thing she would see. And then the plan was to basically have breakfast and leave, and stay until kind of a Sunday afternoon. Um, so I got up Saturday morning, I had the note out and ready for her when she woke up. She liked to sleep in, and I just kind of hung around the bedroom waiting. And she finally got up and came out with the note in her hand, and I was like, "So, what do you think? Can we do this? Are we gonna go?" And she declined. She told me that it just wasn't right, and she didn't want to go. And I was crushed.
Thank you for sharing.
Um, and that was the moment I knew that it was done. Like that I had nothing left to give. I had tried everything. I just didn't know what else to do.
Were there, if there's, we have lots of viewers who may be in difficult, relationships. What, if you could give them any advice on, any red flags or things that, maybe you would have liked to have paid attention to sooner? Would you have any advice on that?
Definitely. And it's easy to look back at, how I handled some of these situations. And honestly, it was, I did the best I could at the time. I hadn't
Mhm.
been through, a divorce. I didn't know what, um, some of the gotchas were with navigating custody and kids and all of those things. And um, I thought, taking the high road and staying, keeping kids out of conversations and out of the middle of things, and even, family and friends as well, like was the right thing to do. And to not get into kind of, so to speak, get into the mud. But looking back, I think that was a mistake, because there, with every story, there's two sides. And if you're silent and not actively engaging in some of those conversations, then the void gets filled. And if there's only one side of the story that gets told, then that essentially becomes the truth. And that's not necessarily the case. And so that was a big, I think, mistake that I made was not being more active in having the conversations, even about the marriage. Like my kids still to this day have no idea what married life was like for me with her. Like no clue. Like I have never ever talked to them about that. And the same goes for her family and even unfortunately my family, where she stayed very active and in touch even with my my siblings, to where, I have never talked to my siblings even about what my marriage was like. And so they lean her direction now. She has influenced their attitudes towards me, because I didn't step in and have those conversations. And it's hard to know like scope of who she was talking to and what she was saying. I mean, I know there was just crazy stuff that she was throwing around for years and probably still does, that it would have been exhausting to try and counteract that. But I think sometimes those little nuggets of truth, carry a lot of weight, and could have changed some of the situations I'm in today. But I think the
So
other,
do you feel just a little bit more on that? Do you feel like you wish you would have reached out more to the important, I realize, friends and, all that kind of stuff, but the important people like your family and your kids, to tell them a little bit more about your story. Is that what you're saying?
yeah, I should
Yeah.
have. Yeah. And I think part of what I struggled with, I think it was two things was, one was just thinking I was taking the high road. But the other thing is I was hurting myself. I was struggling. And so, to feel like I was in a place to be really active, having those conversations, like I don't think I was in a place that I could have really done that well.
So tell me, after, you know, I don't know if the divorce ever ends, but after you had made the decision anyway, and you went forward with divorce, how did you begin your healing process from that?
Uh, so I went to therapy.
You did?
Yes.
Okay.
So I knew that I needed help. So I know a lot of times there's kind of a stigma around therapy, but I love therapy now. I really enjoy going to it. There's still times that Amy and I go to therapy together. Sometimes we go separate, because there's a lot of things in life that are just hard to navigate sometimes. A lot of things that are hard to understand. But I started at therapy, and you're gonna laugh at this, but my one of the very first assignments I got from my therapist, and it was so hard. It was so hard.
What?
You're gonna laugh about this, but
Okay.
I had to put, he called it a passion list. I had to put a
Oh,
passion list together.
oh,
And it was things that I would enjoy doing by myself. It couldn't be with a group of people, and it couldn't be like mindless activities. So I couldn't go, get on Instagram or Facebook or something. Like it had to be active, alone things, that I would enjoy doing, that I might be passionate about. And then I had to pick one thing from that list every day and do it.
every day.
Every day I had to do one thing off of my passion list, and spend at least 15 to 20 minutes doing it. And Oh my gosh, that was so hard.
What were some of the things you picked? I want to know.
Um, so running was one of them.
Okay.
Shooting my bow was one of them. So I'm a
Okay.
bow hunter.
That's fun.
Reading. So like it was just, I mean,
Okay.
they're little
Yeah.
things. They're not like, it's not like I have to go climb Mount Everest as my passion or something. Like they were small, simple things. But
Chris, I get it. When you're in survival mode, those are the things that go out the window and you forget who you are.
yeah. And so that was, like I said, it was so hard for me to feel okay, even though like at this point I was living by myself and I had, I couldn't see my kids. I was not allowed to see my kids basically one entire weekend, and then I would
Oh,
get to see them for a couple hours on a Wednesday evening. And so I had all of this time, and it was like, I still was like, is it okay for me to go spend 15,
have
20 minutes like for myself?
and have fun.
Like, and I felt guilty. Like there was guilt, when I started doing those passion list items, it took me months to get comfortable to where I was like, okay, like it's okay for me to spend time for myself. It's okay for me to engage in these types of activities, and on the other side of those, to actually not get beaten up for doing something. There was no
Yeah, it sounds
guilt
like
and,
that was kind
and
of how the marriage
shaming,
was,
yeah, that
right?
came after. Yeah.
That it was all to
Yeah.
do all the things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it was not safe and it was not okay for me to have anything for myself. And so it for
That's
months,
huge though. That's
I
so
know.
huge. So you stuck with it.
So I did stick with it. And now
Good.
I still, those are things that I still do today.
Speaker, I speak on, the big three, I call them, which is
Okay.
overthinking,
Oh,
perfectionism,
okay.
and procrastination. You know,
Oh, yep.
OPP, overthinking, perfectionism, procrastination, right?
And
OPP,
what did
you
you
know me,
call
right?
them? The three what?
The three big ones
The
that
three
get
big ones.
that just keep
Gotcha.
us stuck,
Okay.
right? Because there's nothing like overthinking something to death, right?
Yep.
Or waiting until things are perfect before you do it, after I get that degree, after I do this, I'll do the thing that's really important to me. And then when it comes time to do it, well, there's always something else to do for us to procrastinate on, right? So
Yep.
I help people, number one, really see that those are symptoms of
Okay.
usually a lot of things much greater, which is how you and I started our conversation, which I'm sure we'll get into later. But
Yeah.
what led me here was about as, circuitous of a route as you could possibly have,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
So if we back up to when I graduated from college, from Penn State back in 2000, yeah, 2000, 25 years ago,
2000. Okay.
I was graduating mechanical engineering degree and fell into a job where I worked in the US Space and Defense Program. I led test operations for NASA and elite military units for a decade and a half. And
Wow.
yeah, I mean, it was really cool. Yeah, no one was more surprised that I was able to land a job there than me because I wasn't a straight A student by any means, but I ended up there through a whole series of things, which started with me losing my dream internship working with Disney before
Oh,
my junior year of college. So
okay.
I went through numerous jobs, had a very glamorous job during that summer because I had nothing else lined up, where my responsibilities included pulling dead mice out of toilets. Like I'm just,
No.
yeah, yeah,
What?
yeah. So that
Yeah,
was
that's
my
my
job.
nightmare right there. Yep.
Yeah. I didn't realize that was my nightmare until that's what I was doing.
Exactly. Oh, well, I
Right.
bet it was very motivating for I've
Right.
got to do something else, right? Yeah.
Bingo. So when the opportunity to came do something else that summer, because I was working at a camp, they needed a rock climbing director. And
Oh,
they
that
said, would
sounds a
you
lot
be,
better.
yeah, they're like, would you be interested in doing that? And I said, oh, absolutely. And they said, would you know how to rock climb? I said, no, not at all, but you train me, right?
Yeah.
And they said, yeah, but are you scared of heights? I said, absolutely. When do I leave? Because anything's better than my responsibilities.
Indeed. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll do anything, right? Yeah.
Right. So I became a rock climber. I was trained and then went on to teach at Penn State. I carried it through. And that job is actually what ended up having me work in the space program.
Really?
Remember, it started with I lost that internship, my dream internship at Disney,
Yeah.
and that job teaching rock climbing is what caught the eye of the lead test engineer for the Mars exploration rover landing system.
Right.
He
Oh,
was,
things
yeah,
happen for a reason,
right,
right?
right. He was former special forces in Vietnam, and as he later would tell the story, his side of the story was he said, I didn't need just some other egghead to come in here. Because we were
Yeah.
doing field testing. Like we were outside the office, we were at government test sites across the planet.
Wow.
I don't need another egghead. I need someone who's not going to get themselves killed, or he said, more importantly, someone who's not going to get me killed. So he saw rock climbing on my resume, and that is how I ended up working in that job. So about halfway through that, went through a huge personal tragedy, lost one of my closest childhood friends to an intentional overdose, and it really caused me to like just shift how I saw the world. And unfortunately, what came about, I mean, fortunately in the end, but what came about was I was performing at elite levels, right? Like I was working with like fighter pilots doing stuff by this time, leading, this testing for NASA. And I thought, I've reached this like elite status, but I came to realize I was elite at everything I did, which included being an elite a-hole, right? I was not a very nice person back then. And what it was masking a lot of the insecurities I felt from the traumas I experienced growing up, throughout my life. But, growing up in the 80s and 90s, especially as a male, like you didn't talk about that stuff. You didn't talk about it at all. So I hid behind this veneer of perfection and this kind of the Superman persona. And anytime I felt that my competency or my ability to do difficult things was challenged, when it could have just been like someone asking a question for clarification, I took it as personal attacks and took a lot of those survival skills that I developed through the course of my life to think I was keeping myself safe to really just lash back at people verbally. And
So tell me, so that's kind of what it looked like, is that you were, would you say reactive
oh, yeah, 100%.
negatively?
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, I didn't know how to process it, and it was just like it was like a switch would flip.
Was it, and you kind of talked about it, but does it feel like what other people were saying you were hearing differently
Oh,
and
100%. Yeah, with the
responding?
hindsight now, yeah.
And looking back now, you know this, but in the moment, it
Oh, yeah.
feels like a personal attack.
It even went
Does
beyond
it?
that, Danielle. It felt
Yeah.
like it was a visceral response because I felt like
Okay.
my safety was being threatened.
So a physical
Yeah. Oh yeah.
response of not feeling safe.
Right. And it was the fight or flight would kick in, which
Yeah.
I leaned way towards the fight part.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that so that started you when did you kind of come to this realization
It was
that
yeah, in
yeah,
2009 after my friend's death.
2009
And it
after the death? Okay.
mhm. Yeah, because I'd always wrestled with anxiety and probably even depression through a lot of my life. Even though I was high performing on the outside, I was an absolute wreck on the inside. And after my friend passed away, like I just could not get myself pulled together.
Yeah.
Like we lost him. I was a I was a brand new dad. I had a lot
Oh,
I had a lot of
yeah.
fear about being a good father.
Oh, yeah.
And
Yeah.
my job, just the responsibilities kept piling on. So it was just this like perfect storm where like I remember after he passed away, like I was just in the bathroom one morning thinking like I don't know how I can go on.
Yeah.
Like maybe he had it right,
Oh,
by checking out. And I realize now is by like the grace of the Holy Spirit that the Serenity Prayer just popped in my head, seemingly out of nowhere. Like I hadn't prayed
Really?
since I left Catholic high school, 15 years
Yeah.
prior to that. I wanted nothing to do with religion, but the Serenity Prayer popped in my head. And as soon
Mm.
as I said the last line, the wisdom to know the difference, I just
Yeah.
felt this warm sensation just come over me head to toe. Just standing there alone, like in my bathroom, like just wondering what was next for me. And I thought, well, that's interesting that I'm feeling something, feel like it's being poured over me. And I thought, I've either just lost my mind or maybe there's something to this God thing.
Maybe there's something
Yeah. So I
there.
leaned into that. And the first thing that happened was that's where like the proverbial scales like fell from my eyes. And, God kind of showed up in a big way. And the way he showed up was saying like, hey, you need to get your act together. You are not showing up real well right now. So I started taking note of when I'd be triggered.
Okay.
Like I was a test engineer. That was my job, like to look at systems,
Oh,
complex systems,
there you go.
and
Okay.
get the data and find out where the truth is. So I
Oh,
started doing that on myself because I'm like, man, I need to get myself together. Like I'd worked with like counselors and things, but I started really just doing the work on myself
okay.
and recognizing when I would be triggered, like in these meetings or in personal exchanges.
Mm.
And it eventually got myself to a point where I didn't feel like my safety was threatened if someone just asked me a question. Like,
Okay. So you
he loves
trained
me.
yourself to not have
Yeah,
that visceral
right.
response.
Exactly. Yeah. And
Oh,
it was, I mean, it took a while. Like we're talking like the span of
yeah.
years. But it was that
Okay.
initial awareness and then
Yeah.
leaning into curiosity, coupling that with the awareness, which is what enabled me to change because it's so easy once you switch out of autopilot into awareness to be
Mhm.
judgmental about yourself, right?
Yes.
And be like, what's wrong with me? I'm a piece of crap. Like what all the negative self-talk. But if you can
Yeah.
take that awareness and not go to judgment town on yourself and switch
Yeah.
instead into curiosity, like that's when you become like a seeker.
Yeah. And did you think about it differently when you started being very testing things about how this is something that helped me at some point. These responses
Oh
helped
yeah,
me when I was a kid survive, but they're
right,
not serving me now. But it's okay that you have these and they can be tweaked.
right. Yeah, I always liken it to so this
Yeah.
is probably no shock. Like someone who worked in the space program and was engineering, like I'm a bit of a nerd. Actually, that's not even true. Like I'm a nerd. I'm a straight up nerd, Danielle.
You're
I'm gonna own
officially
it. I'm owning it.
okay.
Right. I'm
Okay.
a nerd. So, no shock. Star Wars was a big part of my life growing up and still is.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Right.
Of course.
So, this hypersensitivity I developed
Yeah.
to keep myself safe when I was younger enabled me to read people real well. Right.
Yes.
And I always say,
Yes.
like my ability to read people, like until I went through this healing journey, I was like Darth Vader with the Force, right? Darth Vader, super talented with the Force. Well, I was super talented with being able to read people.
Yeah.
And that's how I would be like a verbal assassin and just so efficiently like cut the legs out from underneath them if I felt
Yeah.
threatened. So now, like I've been able to harness that same ability, but now I'm like, it's more like Yoda. Like
Yeah.
the ability to read people, to connect with people, whether it's from a stage or working with them one on one.
Yes. Oh, that's I love that analogy. So tell me what this testing looked like. Like did you journal about it or tell me what that looked like? I'm just, the nerd part I'm interested in.
Yeah, it wasn't pretty. It really wasn't pretty. Um, it was usually more like after the fact, like I would leave a meeting because and like,
Okay.
I'd be like, what just happened? Like I just lost
Shoot.
it on that per
Shoot.
shoot. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wish I would say shoot. I know that's not you, which I'll keep it PG, but yeah, shoot.
Uh,
Yeah, sure. That's what I said, Daniel. And it just became a matter of then incorporating like pauses.
okay.
in eventually getting to the point where I could respond, because it's all
Okay.
reaction up until
Uh-huh.
that point. Like it's just reaction. It's like that
Immediate.
yeah, yeah, that amygdala gets triggered and your prefrontal cortex shuts down, and it was just straight up like emotion. It was a
Mm-hmm.
emotional reaction, which
Mm-hmm.
my body was doing what it was supposed to be doing to keep me safe,
Mm-hmm.
right? It felt it sensed a threat before my logic could kick in, and it just went 100% Hulk.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And what started helping was first the awareness and then building in a pause.
Okay.
Like just those like microsecond pauses to collect myself. And then those pauses, would give me just a chance to reflect on these reactions until eventually I was able to just build in enough reps to where I was able to pause and then respond.
Mm-hmm.
Banging your head against the wall trying to navigate the complexities of a relationship impacted by childhood trauma, it doesn't have to be this daunting. When you're married to a partner with unresolved childhood trauma, it can feel like you're walking on eggshells, never quite knowing what will set them off. No matter what you try, it feels like there's always something triggering another emotional response that seems completely out of context. And the harder you try to fix it, the more discouraged you feel. So what's the issue here? Navigating marriage with a trauma survivor is different. The love languages don't work. Date nights don't work. Self-help books don't help. But here's the good news. I've created something that does work. Something built from years of hard-earned lessons and real-life experience. Ready to take the first step toward real change? Let's talk. I'm offering a free one-on-one call where we'll dive into what's going on in your relationship and figure out a way forward together. This isn't just another quick chat. It's a chance to finally be heard, to share what you're going through with someone who truly gets it. No judgment, just real support. So if you're ready to start making sense of it all and find a little more peace in your marriage, book your free call now. Your happiness, your peace, and your relationship are worth it. Let's do it together.
Into it, telling us what happened in 2016 that
Yeah,
made
thank you.
this big shift.
Thank you. Really, I believe that our life sends us wake-up calls. Our lives are always speaking to us. And in 2016, I was leveling up. I was changing things about my life. I had no idea what I was like getting myself into, but I was in a partnership with. I am in the same partnership with my almost husband, David. And we'd been together for about 4 years at that point, and I just was laid off from a job and had to figure that out and started my own business. And we decided to move from New York, where we were living, to Los Angeles, where I'm from. And in hindsight, like, well, it's taken a lot of analysis and discovery and retrospection to figure out what was really happening, but um, it was a huge shock to my nervous system. And what I really needed to do at this point was to love myself more than I loved somebody else. And I also was starting a business, and my foundation was it just wasn't there. Like I didn't lack confidence. I mean, I'm sorry, I didn't have courage and confidence. I lacked them. And so I started this business. We were moving, and all of a sudden, like, I started to really feel depressed. Back then, I would have called it worrying. I was worrying incessantly. I remember one of the lowest points. I lived by Madison Square Park in Manhattan, and it was like it was freezing. And I remember walking around the park, like on the phone with a friend, like just crying. And I smoked like almost a whole pack of cigarettes. Like I mean, the smoking is crazy too, but it was freezing, and I was still out there, like. But yeah, I mean, I was suffering really, really bad. And I started down what I call my healing journey. I went to the doctor and found out that I had high blood pressure. No big surprise because I was stressed out and smoking a pack of cigarettes every day. But that made me feel like, I mean, I was really worried about my health. And all of this led to where panic attacks started happening, and depression got really, really, really bad. And actually, it got so bad that on the first night David and I landed in LA, the day we moved here, I ended up going to the hospital thinking I was having a heart attack. And then it kind of all started to unfold from there. I I grew up in a home that I would say that like there was love, but something always felt off. And at this point, I was going to therapy, and just like it became unavoidable. We had to address my childhood, and my childhood just left me feeling completely worthless, like something was wrong with me for just everything, and like just like that I was a flawed human and broken. And this really came out. It was during a couples therapy session. My partner and I were in couples therapy. We were in couples therapy for a very long time, and I would say it was very, very good. So, I highly recommend couples therapy. It was a Friday night. We were really fun people back then, going to couples therapy on a Friday night. And she was telling me, she was like, Matt, like, tell David what you need, tell him what you need. And she kept pushing me. And we had a good relationship. Like like
Mhm.
she thought she thought that it was safe to do so. And then I mean, it was safe. Like, we just figured out what was going on. And I started bawling. And it was like, oh my God, I can't express my needs. If I say what I need, then I'm going to be punished for it. Then I'm going to be, then I'm going to be left. My needs aren't okay. And at that moment, it became clear that there was a lot from my childhood that needed to be repaired.
Oh my goodness. And tell me what this, so was it a heart attack or was it a panic attack with
No,
that happened in the hospital?
yeah, going back, it was a panic attack. It's funny. I mean, this was not
Really?
funny, but this was in
Yeah.
2017 by this point, so 5 years ago. And it was just about 6 months ago that I realized that that actually was a panic attack. Like, I knew it wasn't a heart attack, but I never realized like that's what it
You didn't
was.
put the
No,
correlation together.
yeah,
Wow.
freaking
Wow.
out and thought I was dying and ran to the hospital.
Yeah. And what did your partner think of all this?
You know, it's interesting. I think, God, I mean, no one's really ever like, or maybe I just feel so close with you, and we've had so many conversations. I think
Yeah.
he's always like thought I would be okay.
Yeah. We'll
Just,
figure it out, huh?
yeah, like
Oh,
like he didn't get overly activated about it. I mean, I think it was kind of like Matt's worried enough about everything for the both of us. Like, wasn't, I mean, there was a time when I was like really, suffering from stress really, really bad, and that was affecting our relationship. But I mean, I mean, it was really such a catalyst for us to like go through the healing together and to like learn communication and everything that we learned through couples therapy. So, I mean, to be honest, if this wouldn't have happened, this needed north of rock bottom my whole life.
yeah.
Like, I don't know that I ever would have like hit a low enough point to like really uncover like what was going on. I might still be walking around the park smoking cigarettes right now, like just like, operating with just enough no, don't even want to say self-love, self-tolerance, get through the day. But this like changed everything for me and for him and for us. Um, Yeah, like I think today, like still he's, I'm just kind of laughing a little bit because it's like I still worry about me more than he does.
Well, that is somebody who has your back, right? Who is your cheerleader, who knows that you can get through it even if you feel like you don't. So that's amazing.
Yeah.
And tell me about this correlation between childhood trauma and the physical effects. What do you know now?
What do I know now? Well, I'm actually just reading the book, The Body Keeps the Score, for the second time.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. The first time, I mean, it really, really resonated. And now I'm like, I open it up and like read a paragraph, and I'm like, oh my God, like is this written about me?
This is right on, right? Like,
Yeah. I mean, I have high
yeah.
blood pressure at 41 or 42. I mean, 42 years old. I just started a second blood pressure medication pill recently.
Mm,
I mean, I mean, it's the goal is that I'm not going to necessarily need to be on this for a long time, or hopefully not both of them. But yeah, I mean, I knew my body kept the score of this. Like, I'm just thinking for a moment, I want to answer this. A lot has happened since I've like talked about this. A few months ago, my shoulder started hurting, like kind of out of nowhere. And then, like, I'm kind of an Eastern medicine person. Like, I like to figure things out, like, Eastern medicine wise, if I can. And I
mhm.
found this chiropractor that he doesn't really do adjustments. It's really more fascia release. He's an old
Mhm.
man, old wise man. And then like he came towards me and I like flinched. And he's like,
Yeah.
"Oh, that's not normal." Like
Oh,
and doing like
yeah.
I mean the fascia release work that he's done, like things like, and he's
Yeah.
quiet. He sits there and like, I mean, I mean he's kind of told me that subtly, but what's happened recently is that I'm really realizing how much my body has kept the score of all of this.
Yeah.
And I'm at a place right now, this healing journey started about 8, 9 years ago. The first couple of years, I would say, I tried to avoid anything about this being family related. I'm actually reading my old journals like right now from like this
Really.
time, and it's very interesting. I mean, a year went by and I'm like suffering and nothing's written about my childhood at all. And then like a therapist said the word trauma, and then I started to like inquire a little bit about it, but like, and I'm finally getting to the point where I'm starting to like open up about like, oh, this happened like because of what was happening in childhood. But I was like very, and my parents, my family, and I didn't talk for a few years, and then I kind of like I think I reached a point where I wasn't in a period of extreme growth, and it made sense to like try to bury things, and and about 5, 6 months ago, I started to like I just made a huge professional leap, a professional life change. Um, and a lot came up, I mean, I've had to face the confidence issues, the inadequacy issues, the inability to trust my intuition the way that one needs to when they're making big decisions. But yeah, I mean, I would say that right now, like I've never been more aware of how my body has kept the score of all of this. And I just like, like I'm seeing like I mean, there was a period where I had nightmares like every night for like, I mean, this went on for like probably 10 years. And lately it's like the past few years it's really not been so much. But I'm like realizing like, oh my God, like I never realized like it's not normal to have nightmares like that are like horrific things. And yeah, yeah, I practice yoga. I'm a yoga teacher now. I take baths often. I go for walks. I work out. I spend time in nature. I stretch, but like my body feels like I'm kind of at a place where I feel like I say this my like my nervous system is kind of shot, and I'm
Yeah.
in a place of needing to realign my life to accommodate for what my nervous system needs.
What's the one thing that you wish that everybody knew about the connection between trauma and health?
To stop doubting it. Like to completely stop doubting it. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
just like don't even like I don't even know. I mean, I mean, I might have spent like of this past, I mean, of the 8 or 9 years I've been on this, I mean, I probably spent the first 2/3 of it just like really not even like maybe the first 3/4 of it, not even like trying to talk myself out of it being a real thing. But no, I mean, like it's a real thing. Seeing like this chiropractor, very, very, very gentle, like lovely person who really got me to see that. Like when he came at me and I'm like
Yeah.
flinching, he's just like, oh, like, And this is after I've spent $250,000 on therapy and like
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
So imagine what it was 10 years ago. I mean,
Mm.
I probably flinched 10 times as bad as I did.
Oh, yeah.
But
Yeah.
no, I think that like, and also I will say this, it's not too late, to help. Like if you've done something if you've, not been the best parent and you've traumatized your kids, like my health would be, the more that I realize that I'm not crazy, the better my health improves.
Mm, yeah. Well, because you're able to address it and fix it, right?
But somebody apologizing for what they've done,
Yeah.
would certainly, it certainly wouldn't hurt my health.
No, it would not. And the three big things I hope you take away from these conversations. First, healing doesn't happen in silence. Chris, John, and Matt all got to that breaking point where they just couldn't keep it all in anymore. And the real change, it started when they finally started talking, naming the hurt, saying the scary stuff out loud, and letting someone in. Second, trauma doesn't care how together you look on the outside. These guys had big careers, huge accomplishments, the kind of resumes that look like they've got it all figured out. But underneath, trauma was still calling the shots. And it's such a reminder that you can't out achieve the pain you haven't faced yet. And third, maybe the most important, especially for men, is that self compassion isn't a nice to have, it's the turning point. And every single one of them was so hard on themselves. They thought beating themselves up would make them do better. But what actually moved the needle was softening, learning to treat themselves with the same care they gave everyone else, learning to treat themselves the way others in their childhood or in their past did not. And these stories are proof that healing is possible, that love can actually feel safe again, and that being kind to yourself isn't weakness. I want everyone to hear that. It's where everything changes. Thanks so much for hanging out with me today and for letting these conversations remind you that there's always hope, even if it feels far away right now. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you next week.